Hello, everyone. Here I am today again for another Freedom to Feel conversation with John Masiulionis. And hopefully, I spelled that right. I pronounced that right, correctly.
You
So,
did, yeah.
I did. Oh, good. John is a publicist for inspirational, spiritual, and children's authors, and also the founder of PR from the Heart. I love that. That really caught my attention when I saw the name Heart being part of a business, because everything that we do, it seems to be in a way a transaction. I see a lot of that here in the human experience, in the human world, that we kind of sometimes separate things. We have the personal life and then we have this business life. And from my perspective, everything is connected. There's nothing that's separated. So that's how I live my life, and I practice living every aspect of my life. And it's not easy sometimes, but when it comes from the heart, it becomes easy in a way to to kind of integrate everything because it's true to us. I'm just being true to what is true to me. So with that in mind, I would love to hear, in your own words, who John is and how you came to do and be who you are today.
Well, first of all, Valeria, Happy New Year to you, your family, to your loved ones, to your listeners, and to your viewers. I want to introduce everyone to my new Shih Tzu Maltese puppy before we begin. His
Yes.
name is Little Forrest.
Oh
He's
my
about to
God.
turn 4 months old on his end of
Oh
things, and
God.
he's been such a beautiful gift in my life since I received him shortly
Yeah.
before Thanksgiving. I'm
Ah,
very grateful for the opportunity to be able to share my heart and to share my story and why I do what I do, especially for the children of the world. Over the years, I've had people refer to me as a connector,
mm,
as a networker. And a large part of the work that I do for children, and really my mission, and the term I know that Dr. Wayne Dyer utilized quite a bit was my Dharma,
yeah.
is inspired by Mr. Rogers, the host of the long running children's television program, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. And he would use the term neighbor, how we're all neighbors with one another. Even
Right.
if we necessarily don't live next door to someone, you are one of my neighbors.
Yeah.
And, one of the
Mm,
things that my journey has taught me is the importance of remaining grateful and appreciative and grounded, but also remaining very humble as well too.
yeah.
So I'm very grateful for the fact that I do have this platform, PR from the Heart, to be able to help and support and be of service to inspirational, spiritual, and children's authors. But I just look at myself as a fellow neighbor, someone who is
Mhm.
just here to be able to. I also utilize the phrase quite a bit because I'm very inspired by the work of Ram Dass, the beloved
Yes.
spiritual teacher. And he would
Mm,
always say, we're all just here to walk each other home. And at the end
yes.
of the day, I'm just a
Yeah.
fellow neighbor here to walk my fellow neighbors back home.
Wow. That's very inspiring and wonderful to hear from everyone I meet on these platforms, the audio interview and here the video interview. Is becoming more open to the idea that we can come from the heart without any reservations, because it still seems to me that I see with my husband that there's this idea that you're supposed to act tough. You can't show emotions and feelings because you're a man, or perhaps because you're a woman who work in a corporation and have this serious, supposed to have this serious position, very stiff and rigid. But when it comes to feelings and emotions, it's a human trait, isn't it? We all experience them all the time. So that's why I created this platform, to explore what feelings and emotions are and how we access them from the perspective of freedom. What is freedom from that perspective in the reverse? So I wanted to ask you this question before I ask you any questions about your work. I have lots of them here. What is your understanding of feelings and emotions, John? And what's freedom from the perspective of feelings and emotions?
It's a beautiful question. It's interesting because my word of the year for 2023 is harmony.
Mm, yeah,
Being in a harmonious state
yeah,
internally, and being in a harmonious state and have that reflect in my external life. And I can admit, when it came to expressing my emotions and feeling my feelings, I might have been late to the program, as the expression goes, or late to the party, late to the dance, whatever your cup of tea is.
Yeah.
I feel that, it's very easy to compartmentalize how we're feeling, or to even stuff down our emotions and our feelings. And I had a lot of good experience at that. But it's interesting. One of the most gifted people that's come across my path, one of my teachers and practitioners who I've worked with, I remember him saying something to me, and it really wasn't that long ago in hindsight. And he had said, and I'll paraphrase it, John, you just want to get to the other side of whatever it is that you're experiencing. You cannot bypass your emotions and your feelings. Yeah. As the expression goes, in order to heal it, you have to feel it.
Right.
And so, for literally my whole entire life, even from when I was a child to now, I was a very sensitive soul, still am. Yeah. And I feel that it's becoming, and I'm still learning this every day, it's becoming easier to be able to express my emotions and feel my feelings in healthier ways, because it's also very easy, in one way, shape, or form. We all have experience with numbing ourselves out, whether it be through the Netflix or the food or the YouTube binging or the alcohol or the drugs or the sex or all of the above. And it's just so important, especially as we start the new year. Many of us say we have New Year's resolutions. Yeah. We all have New Year's resolutions. And it's interesting because half of the resolutions that are made by people across the country fail. They don't come to fruition. Yeah. So it's a matter of, this is just my 2 cents, is to be able to express our emotions, to feel our feelings, and to really set intentions. There's a difference between, I feel, an intention and a resolution, because a resolution, it's kind of like, I'm going to lose 10 pounds during the first 2 months of the year. And then you can kind of back out from your resolution. But if you set an intention, if you set a commitment, it becomes, self-discipline becomes more important to you. And it just becomes easier to be able to do whatever it is that you're trying to do. And on the last aspect, you were talking about freedom. That's something that is a very deep word to me. There is I'm not sure if you ever saw the movie. It came out in the late 1980s. It was a movie called Glory. It was about the Civil War. It starred Denzel Washington, Matthew Broderick, Carrie Elwes, who many people know from The Princess Bride. And it was the story about the first African-American battalion that served in the Civil War. Yeah. And they got called up to the big leagues, so to speak. They got called actually to be in the war. And so it was a very passionate story about freedom and what freedom meant to them, and breaking themselves from bondage, from slavery in many respects. And I watched that movie when I was like 8 or 9 years old. I'm an old soul. And so for me, it kind of felt like it was this elusive thing for such a long period of time. But I became more aware over time that freedom is something that we can experience daily, that it involves a daily surrender. And it's a matter of what is it that if there's, one of several messages that I want to communicate to your listeners and viewers, it's a matter of when you wake up in the morning, how do you want to feel? What it is that you want to create? And how do you want to feel? That even if you're working at a 9-to-5 job, you can experience freedom. You don't necessarily have to be the Dalai Lama or Archbishop Desmond Tutu to experience freedom. Now, I'm very blessed and grateful that I'm on the other side of many things. I'd actually worked in the collections industry for over 13 years. And during that point in my life, I really didn't feel free. Right. But, being able to have my own business for nearly 9 years, there's been a greater sense of freedom. And it's something that I'm still, again, learning each and every day in the process, and just remaining grateful for the opportunity to feel more freer each and every passing day.
Yes, beautifully said. There's so much there that you said. One question that comes to mind is, do you connect that sense of freedom, healing, and spirituality? Are they all connected?
Yes, yes, I feel that it's very easy to try to separate things,
Right,
right?
right,
To be able to separate our bodies from our emotions. And again,
right.
just my own cup of tea,
Yes.
so to speak, but I do feel that they're all connected together with one another.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you for saying that. It's almost like a confirmation. Yeah, that's how I feel too. I'm kind of I look at you and I see the puppy. And it's fun. Oh my God, there's something about animals that's just so free, isn't it? It makes
Agree.
us smile. So I'm not sure if I read this on your website or I was inspired and then I wrote this. I found this a long time ago. So it reads, heart centered businesses empower and inspire us to heal, to be kind, and love. They help us to improve our own lives and the lives of others on our planet. Let's support and celebrate the authentic, humane, and heartwarming way of living.
I don't believe that that's from my website. That is beautifully written and beautifully shared, and
Right?
it really does embody why I do what I do. It's
Right.
during the path of entrepreneurship, at the very beginning, it can be a matter of what's in it for me before how may I be of service.
Right.
And it
Right.
takes time, it takes experience, it takes practice, it takes patience, and it really takes a very big heart opening to
Yeah.
really say it can't be like that.
Mm.
Well, again, that is a choice. It could be like that,
Right.
but when we take the time to, I feel that when someone shows up for us and says, I feel that you can help me, and at least in this particular instance with my work, it's promoting my children's book, promoting my
Yeah.
inspirational memoir, promoting my spiritual book.
Yeah.
That's a matter of that person coming to you as a soul to soul connection and saying, I am really trusting you. I am entrusting you. I'm entrusting your help, even though, as the expression goes, trust is something that's earned over time.
Yeah.
There's this initial trust that's given up front. And especially when it comes to children's books,
Yeah.
it's
Huh.
kind of like someone, whether it be, a mom or a dad, whoever's writing the book is kind of like, I'm entrusting you with my message. This is kind of like one of my unborn children, so
Yes.
to speak.
Yeah.
And I trust that you have my best interests at heart. And in
Yeah.
the world of publicity, it's a very transactional based industry in many respects. There's
Yeah.
a word that I learned when I was growing up, and it's a Polish word. It's called szajacka,
Huh.
and that means cutthroat.
Yeah.
So just in the society in which we live, it's always a matter of, trying to upstage the next person, trying to get ahead, trying to get the next buck.
Right.
And it's a matter of, especially when it comes to helping someone to fulfill their life's purpose, to further them in their mission, in their dharma, it's a very sacred thing.
Yeah.
And
Right.
and again,
Mm.
I do my
Mm.
part to try to be a non-judgmental person. So it's
Yeah.
it's just a matter of, even if someone is in the space of what's in it for me, and they're trying to clear out some old fear storylines, and I'm not worthy, and the money's going to go out faster than it's going to come in, you
Yeah.
can get to a point where it can be, how may I be of service? Because if you take the time to notice, when you focus on how may I be of service, the what's
Right.
in it for me always lands up taking care of itself.
Right. Right. So true. I love the way you speak, but I know it's not just a way of speaking. This is you being the message and not just the messenger. So thank you so much, John, for
Well,
being
thank you,
you.
Valeria.
Yeah,
I
we do
appreciate it.
need we do need more of this spirit in the world. So there's a section, a part of in your bio that caught my attention. It reads, John understands that challenges that heart-centered entrepreneurs face as they step out in faith and follow their own path of service. So you just spoke of service and having that trust. So what are the other challenges that heart-centered businesses people face?
There, I believe this is the latest statistic, and don't quote me on this, but I believe there was over 100,000 children's books that were
Wow.
written in 2022 alone.
Wow.
That's a lot of children's
Yeah.
books. So, for
Yes.
example, if you're a children's author, even if, let's say, you've written 2 or 3 books, it's very easy to go to that headspace and say,
Mm.
well, there's 999,999 other children's books besides my own. How am I going to stand out? How
Right.
is my book going to stand out? Who's going to read my book? How is it going to make a difference?
Yeah.
And that's one of the fears, challenges, and older storylines that, some authors can believe. And it's okay if you do,
Yeah.
because that's one of the reasons why I'm here in terms of being of service, because it's so important to be able to share one story right now. Your story, Valeria, is valuable. My story is valuable. The stories of all of our fellow neighbors are valuable. Even if, again, you're a children's author and there's so many other children's books, just imagine, just feel into it, the fact that, let's say, if there is a little boy or little girl and their parents are going through a divorce, and let's say that the book that you're writing or have written is going to help that little one get through that challenging time in their life.
Right.
And it's a really, really good feeling to be able to feel into that.
Right.
Entrepreneurs also as well too, especially when it comes to authors, many times we have different commitments, we have different obligations, we have different tasks. So, a good majority of my clients are moms and dads. They already may work a full-time job, or their career is fully an author and they're just trying to multitask in the highest and best ways and finding out, where is my time, space, energy, and bandwidth? How and where is that best meant to be spent?
Right.
And I think another thing that comes to mind is that it's very easy when we go on social media, whether it be
Yeah.
Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, we can see people that are in our sphere, that are in our realm, whether it be podcast hosts, spiritual teachers, children's authors, coaches. And we can say, well, this person has got 2 million followers and I only have 10,000. And you can get down on yourself, because social media, if it's utilized for the highest and greatest good, it can make a great impact. But the thing in many respects is that social media is kind of utilized as like this braggadocious vehicle. Like, look at me, here's my new $3 million house, or look at me, here's my new sports car. Or I still think that social media, when it comes to sharing pictures of puppies and babies and good food, that's utilizing it for the highest and greatest good. But in many respects, there's a lot of people that are still moving through their own challenges of simply believing in themselves. And so, even though I don't bill myself as a coach per se, there is an empowerment component in the work that I do, because a large facet of why I do what I do is to inspire those clients that I'm working with to be able to trust themselves, to trust their decisions, to realize that they have it within them to succeed, to thrive, and to flourish. So the old entrepreneurial paradigm of, let me just see how I can do this month and maybe I'll just get by again. We're really stepping into a time where we're here, like, we didn't come here to pay taxes and die, Valeria. We came to communicate and emanate from our hearts. We came here to share our stories. We came here to be of great service. We came here to thrive. We came here to have fun in the process. So there are, that's just a fraction of the challenges that heart-centered entrepreneurs face. And authors as well too. And it's simply just a matter of really aligning yourself with the right people. Because I really feel that when you open up your heart, it's kind of like, the universe will bring what and whom you need to be able to move forth in your next steps fully.
Right. Yes, that alignment. Wow, I love listening to you. That the self-trust, that it's really, to me, it's not just empowering. To me, that is it's the foundational truth without trusting ourselves, then anything is possible. Anything that's fulfilling, it's really possible. That self-love, self-trust, self-knowledge, self-respect, it really starts with the self. I learned that lesson by experiencing this life, and also seeing around me, people around me. They project so much on the outside. They expect so much from the other, from the external world, and they compare so much that they ended up feeling discouraged and lacking. So that's a very good observation about comparison, and instead of going outside, just living from your own energies. And I love that you're doing this work too of a coach. You sound very much like one, a spiritual coach at that. So there's something else that caught my attention. That was, yeah, I think it's in your bio as well, perhaps your website. You wrote, my late grandmother passed on in 2013. I'm sorry about that, John.
Thank you.
And that was truly where my awakening began. So the question is, what's the relationship with the influence that your great grandmother have have on your work, on what you do today?
I can do my best to really put that into words because it's really more of a feeling for me than I can best share in words. Growing up, I'm part Polish. I'm part Polish and part Lithuanian. So my last name Masiulionis is Lithuanian. Mom's side of the family Polish, dad's side Lithuanian. Just a little background. And so growing up, from when I was born through around when I was a junior or senior in high school, I spent many times with my grandmother and my grandfather on my mother's side. So especially coming off of the Christmas holiday that we all experienced, Christmas Eve, Polish people celebrate what's known as the Wigilia, which is the Polish meatless meal. So we would have different kinds of fish, different kinds of soups, tomato, vegetable, cream of mushroom. We would have this delicious dish. I'm not sure if you and your husband have had it before. They're called pierogies. They're similar to dumplings, kind of the same exterior as a dumpling. And then on the inside, there's potato or sauerkraut or mushroom or cheese, like a cottage cheese kind of mixture in the inside. Whenever I went to my grandmother's house growing up, not even just during the holidays, but I felt safe. I felt loved unconditionally. And even though I had a disconnect from my extended family for probably a little over 10 years or so, I remember the last time that I saw my grandmother before she passed. And that this is when I was really, my awakening first began. Technically, my awakening really fully began after my grandmother passed, but it kind of started a little bit before. And I remember I had a chemical sensitivity to the interior of my car being clean, and I needed to have my vehicle steam clean. And I needed to find someone that had a garage so that I could do it. And I hadn't seen my grandmother in many years. And I drove to her house and explained to her the situation. And I said, I need your help. And it's interesting because it's kind of like where we picked up where we last left off. She said, are you hungry? Now, on the surface, I may have looked like this big hot pizza. I might have looked like 5 minutes shy of a Happy Meal, as the expression goes. But she saw through that. And it's interesting because, and I always share this story, and I'll try to make it brief in lieu of our time here together today, is that after my grandmother had passed, I remember going with my mother and sister to a flower shop in the Buffalo area, which is where I lived before I moved out to San Diego. And I saw this beautiful crystal cross, and I was attracted to it. And I didn't necessarily know why, but it was time to leave. My mom and sister got the flowers. And so I remember heading back to the funeral home for the second portion of the wake, and I get a phone call from my father. And he said, your teammates, because again, back then I worked in the collections industry, as I mentioned, for 13 years. Your teammates got Babcha a flower arrangement. And I said, that was very nice of them. So I remember getting to the funeral home, and there was no one on the outside except one person. He was my former boss named Matthew. And he was the one, he had said some pretty insensitive things to me for a while. Things like, oh, it's all in your head, when I was, moving through some pretty extensive challenges even before my grandmother had passed. And it's interesting because he was the one who actually opened the door to the funeral home. And it was kind of like, it was like my grandmother saying, as the expression goes, like, Father, understand him, for he not know what he does, kind of thing. So I was able to see him in the highest light at that particular point. And then so I walk inside their funeral home and I see the flower arrangement, and in the center of the flower arrangement was that exact same crystal cross. Wow. Now it may not have necessarily been the exact one, but it was literally the one that I was looking at, the same brand, the same everything. It might not have, might have been cross number 3 instead of cross number 1 that they were selling. But since that point, I was able to have a very, and still do, a very strong relationship with my grandmother. She's been, she transitioned close to 10 years ago now. It's hard to believe, but I communicate with her regularly. And I had asked her for many years, I said, Babcha, I would like to have a little Shih Tzu Maltese puppy. And it took some time. And so, here's Little Forest. I know that at some point in time in my life, I'm meant to be a father. That experience hasn't happened yet. And I've communicated with her. I said, Babcha, I trust that when the time is right, that my partner's going to come in, my son's going to come in. And even with regards to the clients that I'm working with, I say, Babcha, show me whom to serve, how to serve, when to serve, where to serve, and in what capacity to serve. And I'm there. Because I was at a point in my life, I'd probably say about 5, 6, 7 years ago, when on the surface, it may have looked like I didn't have much to be grateful for. And she reminded me back then, and still continues to remind me now, that when you place your time and your energy and your presence on what you have in your life and whom you have in your life, then you have more to be grateful for as well, too. So, in many respects, I had a stronger relationship with my grandmother than really many of my family members. But even then, like, I'm grateful for every single person, even if they weren't my grandmother. Every single person, whether it be my mother, my father, my sister, my grandparents on my other side of the family, cousins, teachers, anyone who helped me, who helped to walk me home, I'm extraordinarily grateful for. I'm starting to be at the point in life where even if there was an uncomfortable or disempowering experience, I can take the gratitude and the good from that and move on and move forward.
Wow. That's another beautiful and deep message for all of us to know and to be reminded of. Being grateful. I hear wisdom there. If you don't mind me ask, your grandmother, do you still hear her in the form of memories, or do you actually have visions, dreams?
I feel that there is times where her presence is felt more than before. She, after all, it kind of got to a point where she's like, I'm entrusting you with you. Whereas before it was kind of like I needed her to be my security blanket in many respects. Like, Babcha, I need you to be right here. I need St. Anthony to be right here. I need St. Francis of Assisi, and I need God and the Blessed Mother and Jesus Christ, and all of y'all to surround me, right? Whereas it came to a point where she said, I trust you, and it's important that you trust yourself.
Right.
Especially around the holidays and different sacred times during the year. Easter's just around the corner. It's hard to believe. And so again, there's times where those memories are very effervescent. They're very present, as if they just happened, as if they're happening now, so to speak. Right. And then, there has been times where I have had visions with my grandmother where it's like she's here and she's communicating with me. And I'm just very appreciative. I'm so grateful, Valeria, to be at the point right now where I'm starting to have learned to empower and to trust myself more, because many of us, we can give our power away. We can say that we need to have the 12 practitioners to help us, but any true practitioner is always going to remind us that we have the power within to heal. We have the power within to trust ourselves. We have the power within to be whoever it is that we want to be in life. We have the abilities to learn to love ourselves on the deepest level possible. And again, I'm
Right.
I'm just so grateful for my grandmother's presence each and every day. And I see her. I see her, whether it be
Yeah.
through like her favorite
Yeah.
color is green. So when I see
Yeah.
Christmas trees, when I see grass, every single time that I talk to Little Forest, and it's kind of like
Yeah.
my grandmother as well too.
Yeah. Right, right. Is that loving presence that it never leaves. Some people say love never dies, and I do. That's what I see, like the love in humans, the love that we transmit here in this experience. It just stays here. It doesn't go anywhere.
Mhm.
Where would that go? So it's beautiful to hear you talking about her. So another that sounds like a technical question, but it's not. How do children's books help them to heal and improve their lives? And also, how do they also help the parents? Is that everything it's connected in a way in that sense as well, John, when it comes to children's books?
I'll take the second half of your question first. Is that I feel in many respects that children's books are disguised as children's books, but they're actually meant for
Hmm.
us as big
Yes,
kids. So
yes,
we all have
yeah,
our inner child within us, right? And a lot of the times it's surrounded by the guilt, the judgment, the blame, the shame, the
mm,
unworthiness,
yeah,
the unprocessed emotions, the unfelt feelings, trauma, etc., and so forth.
right,
And I can only imagine, and like my heart goes out to parents that necessarily didn't have the time, space, bandwidth, or the abilities to reconnect with their inner child. So a lot of
yeah,
times there's parents that they bring in a little one into the world, and it's kind of like they're helping to raise the little one,
mm,
and then they're trying to reparent their own inner child. In
right.
certain respects, I'm actually in the process still of strengthening the relationship between my inner child and my inner adult as
Right,
well too. So even at 41 years old, I can be very vulnerable and say I'm still working on that.
right, right.
Children's books, there's something about them. Going back to Mr. Rogers, who I mentioned beforehand, when he spoke in front of Congress, I believe in the late 1960s, to secure $20 million worth of funding for PBS, when he was speaking with Senator John Pastore, who was a very well known senator at that point in time, Mr. Rogers said about his program, he said, I am here with a resource of care. And that
Yeah,
term, when I heard about that a couple of years ago, it struck me, where it's children's books are resources of care.
mm,
So
yeah,
when you take the time to read with your little one, you're creating treasured memories, priceless moments.
right,
Kids will always remember the quality time that you spent with them. Maybe
right.
before the big expensive
Mm,
gift that you gave them, they will remember, hey,
mm,
Babsha used to take the time
mm,
to read to me growing up, or mom or dad or your older brother, your older sister. They will definitely remember that. And Lord knows on my own spiritual healing, children's books in many respects help to save my life. I
yeah,
have I have a deeper
yeah,
connection with children's books now than maybe I did when I was a child. So all of these messages that children's books talk about,
yeah,
unconditional love, compassion, kindness, forgiveness, celebrating and embracing one another's differences. These
yeah,
are just really the tip of the iceberg. These aren't just buzzworthy topics. These are things that we need to surround ourselves with so that we can do our part to be able to heal on
right.
deeper levels as well too. Because
Mm,
when an adult, when a parent takes the time to reconnect with their inner child, it has that positive snowball effect, that
right,
ripple
right,
effect. So the relationship with their child becomes stronger. The family bond becomes that much more dynamic and loving. And so this is why, again, on the surface, it might just look like, oh, this is a children's book, and I can read it to
yeah,
my little one, and it's a good bedtime tool. You can look at it very surfacey from that
right,
kind of perspective. Nothing wrong with that. It's a good way to spend some time with the kids, keep them busy,
yeah.
ground their energies a little bit. But there's just
Mm.
so much more that children's books can do in the process.
Yes, I understand that because I have not read too many, but some of my guests, they are children's authors, and I remember reading some of these books and like, oh my God, this is for me. Not really, I don't know. It's not just for children. I can definitely relate to this and apply this in my own life. And I usually talk from that point of view when I interview them, like from my own point of view, like I'm observing those messages. I'm just applying them in my own life. And another thing you said, that we think that we are actually trying to heal others, but the funny thing is that all healing is self-healing, isn't it? The more I think about that, and it really makes sense to me, the more I heal myself, the more that energy passes on. I can expand or give that healing to others and then perhaps heal others, but it starts with us. So, yeah, I love what you do, John, especially with children. That there's something about innocence that we have lost it. I have lost innocence so young, being a child, and I didn't have all the love, and I was quite the opposite. I grew up with abuse, and then that kind of made me lose the that innocence of seeing the world in a pure way. And then finding wisdom took so long. So now I see like this journey, which we call life, as the experiment of innocence and wisdom, just bringing innocence back, but with wisdom now. So, and I wish I had never lost it, but that's how we can control these things. Another, let's see, we're almost at the end. I know I'm looking at the time here, but yeah, I want to mention that you plan to write your own book, your own children's book. So talk to me about that. And also, there's another beautiful vision you have in plan, which is to open a children's hospice for terminally ill children in La Jolla. What a beautiful vision project.
There, I can't even really put that into words, but I'm going to again do my best to do so. Is that
Yeah.
when I visited San Diego for the first time in 2005, I was introduced to an area in La Jolla in San Diego. It's one of the most beautiful areas in the world, and it's called Children's Pool Beach. So during a part of the time of the year, that is where seals and their families can populate. So like a good portion of the year, it's just kind of roped off and you can just, mom, dad, look at the seals kind of thing. And then for the other half of the year, children, parents, and families can play beautiful crystal clear water.
Wow.
And there was the energy of that place. Some people will use the term vortex. There's definitely some sort of a strong vortex there, because I remember taking a picture of myself at La Jolla Cove, Children's Pool Beach. There's this walkway that you go on to basically where you're almost in the ocean, and you can kind of do your own Leonardo DiCaprio Titanic kind of king of the world impersonation, right?
Yeah.
I took that picture back in the spring of 2005, and I kept it. Now, I look a lot different now than I did then, because at that point in time, I was over 300 pounds. And I kept going back to that picture. There was something about it. And after my grandmother had passed, I'd received, a stronger vision that I was needed out in California. I didn't know if it was LA. I didn't know if it was San Diego. But then in the summer of 2019, for my birthday in August, I went and I visited La Jolla again. And it was just like, this is where I need to be. And it's interesting because there's this very big high rise that's there. It's an apartment complex. But for whatever reason or other, like there's the part of me that said, no, like that's going to be the children's hospice. So one of the things that we probably won't have time to really dive into, but I'll just mention briefly, is that I hosted a popular wrestling radio show for a little over 10 years called Monday Night Mayhem. Whenever the wrestlers would come through to Buffalo, I had a relationship with Children's Hospital in Buffalo. Each children's hospital, I learned, has a child life department, which they provide emotional support and entertainment for children who are going through cancer, dialysis, and who are recovering from surgeries. So when the wrestlers would come through Buffalo, I would call Children's Hospital and say, hey, can the guys from Impact Wrestling or Ring of Honor, which are still two of the big wrestling companies in existence in the WWE, can they come and visit the kids? So the wrestlers would come, big muscle shirts, the shiny gold belts, and the kids' faces would light up because it was like they were meeting their larger than life superheroes.
Right.
And so that was my earliest introduction to what this children's hospice would look like. And this idea was pre-COVID. And I know that COVID kind of changed some things just for a little bit, but I was feeling into what if there was a safe and sacred space where children could go to transition, where it was as if they were in heaven before going to heaven. So when you think of the last days, the last weeks of your life, sometimes it can seem very sad. It can just be a matter of very down, very depressing. So I envision this space where you have not only just professional wrestlers and athletes, but you have authors and speakers and spiritual teachers and Reiki masters and practitioners. And they all are able to spend time with the children to create this space and semblance of being in heaven before going to heaven. And that's really the theme of what is going to be my children's book whenever it is meant to be released. The process of that will actually be starting later this year. That, like, the concept is there, the idea. Now it's just time to be able to move forth and fully write the book. But it's interesting because people ask me, like, how's this going to happen? How's this children's hospice going to take care of itself? And I give two responses. One is that I'm not sure if you're familiar with the legendary actor Danny Thomas.
No.
He was a well-known actor in the 50s and the 60s, I believe. And he wanted to help children. He actually wanted to build a children's hospital, but he was just this guy in Hollywood, right? He wasn't a doctor. He wasn't a nurse. He wasn't a clergyman. But what he did is he started to fundraise and do all of this gathering of financial resources. And lo and behold, you're probably familiar of St. Jude's Children's Hospital.
Yes.
Which is one of the largest children's hospitals in the country, where families who have little ones that are patients don't have to pay a dime for their care. So Danny Thomas was just this actor, and he had this big vision, right? And so I always let people know that it's going to start with the children's book. And then from there, for quite a while, I'll mention this as we begin to wind down our time. For quite a while, I was petrified in many respects of my life's purpose. When you're given a vision such as that, it can, for many years, it was, who, me? I can't do it. What if I screw up? What if what if I can't do it? And it's a matter of, I encourage your listeners, your viewers in the process, who I always refer to as our fellow shining stars. The vision that you have, whether it be to share your story, whether it be to start a charity, whether it be to start a nonprofit, whether it be to change jobs, whether it be to lose 20 pounds, if there is a vision that you were given, it's important now more. It really is now or never in many respects. So when I made the decision back in the fall of 2020 to move from Buffalo to San Diego, in many respects, I felt it was now or never. And so fast forward now, again, it's hard to believe that I've been here now well over 2 years. And I'm just, Little Forest and I are so grateful for neighbors like you that have come into our life in the process. I'm very intentional about the people who I share my journey and my story with. It's very easy to just say, I can do a podcast interview or I can do a TV interview. And it has to have the feeling, the connection has to be true, authentic. And I'm very grateful for you, Valeria, for how you're being of service through your gifts and how you're sharing them and how you're encouraging and inspiring other people to be able to communicate and share from their heart and share their stories. So because of you, in many respects, entrepreneurs, authors are able to do their part to be able to get their messages out in the process. This has been such a fantastic conversation. And who knows, there is so much more to share in the future. So Little Forest and I will return at some point in the future. We'll put that up to the spiritual ethers in the process.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your beautiful presence, your kindness, and everything that you speak of that resonates with my heart. Thank you so much again, John. And before we say goodbye for today, what's the best way to find you, to learn more about your work?
Absolutely. So if someone is interested in what I refer to as a working container with PR for Art, some people call them working relationships. I call them working containers. You can schedule your courtesy connection call by heading over to prfromtheheart.com. You can also connect with me via Instagram and Facebook and Twitter, all at PR From The Heart. I'm so blessed that the PR From The Heart YouTube channel is also a way where people can connect with me and watch the Children's Books Spotlight Series episodes. That is the program that I actually host. It's one of the longest running video podcasts in the Kid Lit community, where I help authors and illustrators to be able to share their inspiring stories in the release of their brand new children's books. It just celebrated its 4-year anniversary in the fall. And also episodes of the Neighborly Reviews bookcast. If you remember the beloved Mr. McFeely on Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, David Newell, him and I actually take the time to deliver new heartfelt reviews from the newest heartfelt children's books from the shining stars in the Kid Lit community at PR From The Heart on the Neighborly Reviews bookcast. So you can watch so much more of Little Forrest and myself
Oh my God.
on both of those programs.
Yes,
Thank you
wonderful.
so much, Valeria. I
Thank
appreciate it so much.
you. Yeah, I'll have those links on your video profile when it's released. Thank you so much again. Forrest, bye for now, my dear. I was here like, I'd rather just to throw all the papers away and play with you. But here we are. Look at this. Oh my God, John, so cute. Bye for now, John. Bye, Forrest. Oh my
Thanks again,
God.
Valeria. Take care.
Thank you, John.